Okay, well, we are here. We're going live on a special edition of Fisher's History Chat, and we have Robert Bowling with us today. So I'm going to go ahead and bring him up as a speaker. Well, I say that, but now I can't find him. He says he was on here. Um, where did he go? Okay, let me go check on that real quick. Oh, there he is. I see him. Okay, let me bring him up here real quick. There he is. Hi, Robert. You there? There you are. Look at you.
There we are.
How's things going?
It's going good. How about yourself?
Well, going great. We are up and we're live. And so, Fisher's History Chat, we got a special edition tonight because you're leaving, and we want to promote something that's coming up that Fisher's Historical Society is putting on that you're involved in out at Geist. So, let me have you introduce yourself. Robert Bowling, you are an author, a historian, and all this kind of good stuff right here in Fisher's. So, you've written Wicked Fishers, is that correct?
That is correct.
And is this a brand new one? This Hoosier Vigilantes?
So yeah, Hoosier Vigilantes is a new book that will be hitting the shelves October 29th, just right before Halloween.
All right.
Um,
Well,
and the book basically covers this is a more statewide book, unlike Fisher's, which is more local. This book will cover every vigilante group that has ever operated within the state of Indiana.
wow, that should be interesting.
Yes.
And then you were one of the contributors to another book called Hamilton County 200 Years of Change.
Yes, and that book was for our bicentennial that we did that covered every township in Hamilton County.
Okay. So, what's your background?
So a lot of people think that I love history, like that I've always been fascinated with history. And tell you the truth, that's not the case. I didn't. I hated history up until my junior year in college, and I had one teacher that totally changed my entire outlook on history.
Well, I've always believed that they have taught history in a manner to make people hate it because they just teach very dry, dusty dates, uh, places and stuff without any of the human story to it. And the human
Mhm.
story is the only thing that really matters. What date it happened, it really doesn't matter. So,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, and yeah, I remember my roommate in college watching the History Channel, and I'm like, "Why are you watching that stupid stuff?" And then, this one professor, I even reached out to him after I graduated just to tell him that, man, you put me on a whole new path. I didn't realize history um, could be that interesting. But what I found out about history is it's almost like a puzzle. You read about one event and you find out that it's that event happened because this event happened, and it just it all comes together when you're researching.
yeah, it does. I've got a friend that is a brilliant historian and speaker. So he's a phenomenal speaker. And he's one of these guys that whatever topic's going on today, he can go back and show you 1,000 years ago who ticked somebody off and really snowballed the thing into today.
Yeah.
It's really pretty fascinating stuff. So tonight we're talking about Geist Reservoir. Now, Geist, is German for ghosts, so I'm not sure if this has any relationship or not. But do we have a lost Atlantis in Geist?
Well, that's what a lot of people would have you believe, and I don't know how many times how many times I've heard the story. Hey, there's a church steeple underneath the water. I'm like, guys, isn't that deep?
No.
So no, there is no lost city of Atlantis underneath the water. But if there is anything, there may be some foundations buried deep, deep in the muck. But other than that, no, there is no city underneath the water. But
All
that's one
right.
of
Well, so
the
let's. I know that you've got something coming up. But why don't we let's go into that real quick. What's coming up on the Germantown program you have coming up at Geist?
Yeah, so next month, that would be uh, July 27th on a Saturday at 11 a.m. We will be having a presentation on the history of Germantown at the Indianapolis Sailing Club. And if anyone's ever been to the presentation that we gave at the Fisher's Library during the bicentennial, it will be very similar to that, but we're also adding some new things to it. And what I really love about this event is that we took what we did at the Fisher's Library, and we had a huge turnout, probably one of the biggest turnouts for a history program like that. And so, what we've decided to do as a Fisher Historical Society, we partnered with the Indianapolis Sailing Club, and we partnered with the Log Cabin Animal Hospital to basically create not only just a presentation, but kind of like a walking tour. So we will be hosting this presentation at the Indianapolis Sailing Club. It is a private club, so this would be a great time for not only for you to come out, learn about Germantown, and learn about the history of the Indianapolis Sailing Club, but you can wander the grounds. I mean, there's a lot of room, like a lot of space back there. And then you can also go over to the Lock Cabin Animal Hospital, which is right around the corner, and they have a huge collection of Germantown photographs and memorabilia, everything that you could, most of the stuff that I have used for my research has come from the animal hospital.
Okay.
And so it's going to be a really cool event. I mean, the Indianapolis Sailing Club, they're very excited to be hosting this with us. And I'm really hoping that we have a really great turnout because the history of the Sailing Club, they were one of the first businesses to form on Geist, and they had been around. They had been there since 1954.
And I was amazed when I found out that their club members were winning like all kinds of world championships and stuff like that sailing. So they obviously were
Yeah,
teaching some people on Geist in a pretty good way. So
yeah. And they even said if you're interested to know a little bit about sailing, I mean, when I was there talking with them, I know nothing about sailing, but they are very passionate, and they're willing to share their knowledge of sailing. Who knows? Some people may come to this event and realize, hey, you know what? I want to join the Indianapolis Sailing Club.
well, that'd
So
be fun too.
yeah,
So
yeah.
now tell me about why is all this stuff at the log cabin veterinarian?
So the and I don't know. I cannot remember his name, but the veterinarian who started the log cabin animal hospital, he basically wanted to create a unofficial Geist museum. That was his that was his plan. So if you go into the lobby of the animal hospital, you will see all these framed pictures. You'll see pictures of Germantown, that was the city that Geist basically eliminated. You'll see photographs of the Geist area prior to Geist being built. So you can really get an idea of what that area looked like. Because for most of us, all we know is this is a big body of water. But that was his plan, and so now that's why the entire lobby is filled with all of this, all these pictures.
Well, it's cool that the new owner, the new veterinarians, wants to honor that as well.
Yes, and she's been very helpful in all of this. And so what we've decided is our presentation is at 11 a.m. So it will probably go to about 12:15, and then from that point, they can go over to the animal hospital, or they can just walk the grounds of the ISC and maybe talk to some of the people there about learning about sailing and things like that.
Excellent. So now, I remember back when we first started getting the like MapQuest and all that kind of stuff. when you would pull up, MapQuest for things, it would still show Germantown in the middle of Geist. The dot would be
Oh,
right
really?
there. So, it's finally gone, but it was always showing up, which cracked me up. And it's like basically if you went straight down 96th Street and went right through like Feather Cove or whatever, you
Yeah.
would end up in Germantown. So, it was just a red dot in the middle of the reservoir.
Wow. So it still showed up on MapQuest, huh?
It did when they first started coming out. So
Okay.
it was quite humorous, at the time. So because Germantown's been long gone before I got around here. So
Right.
So tell me about Germantown. I know that you've got a big presentation, but tell us a little bit about Germantown. What happened?
Yeah. Just to give you a little bit of a teaser, but Germantown was this very, very small community that straddled the Marion County and Hamilton County lines. There was probably, I mean, if we had to guess, probably maybe about 10 houses on either side of the line. And I had actually been working with the Indiana German Heritage Society to learn about why this town was called Germantown. To me, that was my one big question was how, first of all, how did it get its name? Because it did not appear that anyone in Germantown was German. We had a lot of communities throughout Indiana that were truly German, but for some reason we had Germantown. And so I've been working with the historian for the Indiana German Heritage Society, and we've come up with a couple theories. So the town was actually founded by three brothers, John, Solomon, and George, and that was back in 1834. And so what we think happened is that those brothers were from Germantown, Ohio, and they came over and basically settled here. Well, back then it was not. It was very common for people to name towns after places that they've come from, kind of like a homesickness, right?
Right.
So they grew up in Germantown, Ohio, and then they're like, "Well, I miss home, so we're going to call our new town Germantown." And then, but then it still doesn't understand, like it still doesn't explain where Germantown, Ohio came from. Well, another thing they did back then was they would name cities after famous battles. And there was a famous revolutionary battle called the Battle of Germantown that took place in Pennsylvania. Um, and even the British won that battle. However, if the British would have continued on, we would probably have been defeated. But they allowed George Washington to take his troops and retreat back to Valley Forge and regroup. And now and of course, we know what happened. But that was a famous battle, and that was Germantown, Pennsylvania. And so people, when as they migrate, they basically say, "Hey, we're going to name our new town Germantown," and then from there we go over to Indiana, and that's where we're going to establish our town.
Well, that was very traditional for, like towns and counties and everything else to be named after, Marion County was named after Francis Marion, the swamp fox in the Revolutionary War, who, by the way, loosely is what the Patriot is with Mel Gibson. Okay,
Yeah.
that's kind of what that is. But and then of course, Alexander Hamilton is why Hamilton County has its name. So it's that is very traditional, to name after war and different things like that. So generals.
Yeah, and 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 as he was talking about it, I mean, it makes sense that that's probably how the town got its name, considering that nobody in that town was German.
Now,
Now,
what about German Church Road? Is that German Church? There's obviously German. Is that anything related to this, or because they're
I would imagine
kind
it
of in
probably
the
is. I
same
imagine
general
that there
locale?
was a church, that the town had a church.
Yeah,
So I would assume that, that was where the church is at. It's almost kind of like Brook School Road, right?
yeah.
You had a school and they named it Brook School. So it's probably
Well, that
the
that
same
was
thing.
again, up around Westfield, there's Mule Barn Road, and there used to be an old mule barn on that road. Now that barn's been gone for many decades, but it's still Mule Barn Road. So yeah.
There's another story about how the town was founded, but it sounds like that it's not really true. But there was a theory that, and you'll find this in some books, but the town was founded because a group of residents who lived in Oak Landon, they were very disgruntled or really upset that a Native American was killed. And so, because of the killing of that Native American, they said, "We're leaving Oak Landon, and we're going to form our own town." But speaking with the historian for the German Heritage Society, that story probably is not true. It's probably one of those like old wives' tales that was just passed down. There's really no record of that actually occurring.
Well, I'm surprised that there's not a German roots to it because Indianapolis was very heavily settled with Germans and stuff. So like you got the Anthony and Turner downtown. You've got there's quite a bit of old, the south side of Indy has a lot of German roots to it. So there's I saw I'm not surprised, but
And it's also not to be confused with, there is a Germantown in Wayne County, which is Richmond, Indiana. So there's a Germantown over there. When that Germantown went to the post office, because that's when you were official. When you went to the post office to claim your name, a lot of times they would tell you you can't have that name because someone else already has it. Well, that's the case with Wayne County. When they went to the post office to get the name Germantown, they were told, well, there's already a Germantown, and that one's in Hamilton County. So they had named themselves East Germantown, and that's how they.
So was Germantown in Hamilton County or Marion County?
It straddled the line.
Okay, it was right there on 96th Street.
Yeah,
So it was both sides.
You had about 10 houses on one side and 10 houses on the other.
Okay.
So yeah,
right where that dot showed me on MapQuest.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And another thing I thought was interesting about our Germantown is back during World War I and World War II, there was a lot of animosity towards the German people. And the Germantown that was in Wayne County, they actually, during World War I, they had to change their name to Pershing, Indiana, because you did not want to be associated with the Germans.
So it became General Pershing.
Changed, and they named themselves after General John J. Pershing during World War I. And it was so bad, and it was interesting reading about this, that German measles was renamed Liberty measles. Sauerkraut was now Liberty cabbage. Even Dachshunds, the German dog, like it was one of the top breeds in the United States, and it went straight down. But what I thought was interesting is that they changed their name to Pershing, Indiana. Our Germantown stayed the way it was, and
then it got flooded out. But
yeah, it never changed.
I will say this: I have noticed that on social media, I know you've posted some stuff about Germantown, and oh my goodness, people are still not happy about that eminent domain that went through. No, and that's been a long time ago.
Long time ago. I did this presentation at the library with a woman whose family grew up in Germantown, and a lot of those people, they lost their land. I mean, on pennies on the dollar. I mean, they got nothing hardly for their land. Now, some people did profit, and I think it really came down to when you sold. Some people who sold out early probably made a little bit more money. But it was interesting. She actually, and I'm going to try to get this for our presentation next month. But she actually went to the Indianapolis Water Company, and down in the basement, they gave her some documents. She asked for, could I have everything you have on Germantown? And they actually have a map with every single person who lived in that area and how much acres they had, how many acres they had, and then how much they got for their land. And it's very interesting. I was going through, using my calculator, trying to determine, okay, this person made good money, and these people didn't. So she actually has all that. So my
Wow.
goal is to
What
get.
year was that?
So everybody, the construction began on Geist in 1941. So this would have all been prior to 1940, probably 1940 and earlier.
Okay. Now, Geist, was named after Geist was the name of the president of the Indianapolis Water Company at that time, or before that, or what have you. That's where the name came
Right.
from what I understand. But yeah.
Yep. And at the presentation, I'll definitely go into a lot more about Clarence Geist,
Mhm.
uh, because a lot of people have no idea who he is. I've talked to people before. They're like, where's that name come from? I'm also because I'll also be talking about Morse, because Morse is actually kind of related to Geist Reservoir. Um, but yeah, Clarence Geist, he actually was an Indiana native, and he was the one who basically got the ball rolling on this reservoir. A lot of people have issues with the reservoir being named for him. Um, some of the people in Germantown, and these are articles I read back in the 50s and 60s, their biggest complaint was not so much that they built the reservoir there. Their biggest complaint was that they called it Geist Reservoir. They felt like it should have been called Germantown Reservoir because they lost their town.
Right. So I can see that. So, but from what I saw in that thread, it was amazing to me that, you know, 80 years later, there's people that are still angry about. So,
Still, still angry.
and they weren't there. They just heard it at the dinner table or at Grandpa's house or whatever. So,
Yes. Yep.
So now I started my real estate career when guys started really taking off, not with the little with the little lake cottages, but when it started becoming, guys that we know today. So
Right.
yeah.
Well, so Luxhaven was the first subdivision built in the Geist area, and so back then, this was like the 50s. If I remember my notes here, you could get a lot and a cabin for like $1,000, and now we know what home prices are in
Yeah.
Geist area. So it's one of those things. Probably nobody thought, "Hey, I'm not going to buy any land around a reservoir."
Well,
But
even back in the 70s, I used to drive around there when you wanted to go out in the middle of nowhere to go party. That was where you went because it was just woods and little narrow country roads, and that was kind of what was out there. And I remember we used to. It was not sanctioned, but we used to have parties out on the place that eventually became Diamond Point. So so because it was great. You get down there, you had this peninsula, you
yeah,
had the lake all the way around you. It was awesome, So and nobody would find you. You were in the middle of the woods out there. So but it's changed just a bit.
yeah, and one of the cool things about this presentation that we're going to have is we're going to have some videos to watch. I've got some clips of videos, and I showed some of these at the presentation we did at the library. I'm also going to include some new ones for those that have attended and want to attend again. Um, but I love these videos, and we got them from the Indiana Historical Society. And I'm this type of person that I'm always trying to picture what this area would look like before it was built up, right? Even like downtown Fishers. One of my favorite photographs. It's one of our. I think it's the cover photo for the Historical Society Facebook page. Is downtown Fishers 1924. It's that one photo to me is I can just take myself back to that time period and just trying to imagine life just a little bit simpler, right? And you see like four buildings. And so same thing with Geist. Anytime I'm out there on the water, I was like, man, what did this place look like? Because it's a man-made lake. What did this place look like before? And so we found these videos, and you actually see construction. You actually see the land and what it looked like prior to Geist being built. And so this would have been like late 30s, and then construction began in 1841. And it's really cool to see these videos.
I'll tell you what. There's a company there called Dauntless Sailing, whatever school. It's a gentleman that has a little a sailboat,
Mhm.
and he'll take you for tours around, and he does a real good job of kind of going through all the inlets and kind of telling you the history of the stuff. It's worth it's a nice evening, So
Yeah, that's
you
awesome.
know. So
What was the name of that again?
Dauntless Sailing School, I think it is. So
Dauntless Sailing School. Okay.
yeah. But we did it one time. I think we had a Groupon, and it was like, so we had no idea what we are getting into. But it's worth jumping on and having a nice evening going around, guys.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
All right.
So, and he would love this thing because he likes to tell you his history while he's going through as well. So so
Well, the other thing that we're also working on, another project, is trying to get an historical marker for Germantown. Uh, we tried to get one last year. We weren't successful. We're going to try again this year, and if we're not, then we're probably going to do something more local. We can still get a like a marker. It just won't be one that's done by the state. But I feel like Germantown and Geist is it's an important part of Fishers, right?
right.
And we've been working with some people in the Geist area, the marina, and we've got it. We've already even got a spot set for the
Is it a buoy or is it
what?
is it a buoy or is
Yeah, somebody. So it's funny you should say that. If somebody was like, "Are we just gonna have something like sitting in the middle of the water?" I was like, "No, you know what? We're gonna move that inland. We're gonna put it right next to Wolfie's, or whatever that place is called now."
yeah.
So, but
Oh,
uh,
very good.
but yeah, that's one of my biggest project, or one of the big projects right now, is trying to get a marker for Germantown and Geist Reservoir.
Well,
Because
very
actually,
good.
when Geist was built, it was actually the third largest lake in the state.
Was it?
Yeah, and the two lakes that were bigger were natural lakes. And don't ask me to pronounce them because I can't.
Yeah.
Um, they're like big names, but they're in my book. But yeah, it was the largest man-made lake at the time when it was built. It was completed in 1943. So all of this was done obviously during World War II.
Yeah. Which is amazing in and of itself.
Yeah, that we're fighting a war, but yet we're getting
We
these
still have the
reservoirs.
money for that.
Yeah.
Because they had everything on, you know what rationing and stuff was going on pretty heavily about that time. So so well,
And so,
so
and some of the
uh,
things I'll be talking about in the presentation next month is not only about the history of Germantown, but basically what was the need for having the reservoir. Because that is interesting in itself, just how that came about. And then we're going to talk about Clarence Geist, and then talk about some of the unique things when they were building Geist Reservoir, and then eventually, because of Geist, that's it. We got Morse Reservoir as well. So,
oh, Morris actually came because of guys.
well, they realized that Geist wasn't going to be enough, and so they needed another one,
Okay.
and so that's when they built Morse Reservoir. So that was in the 50s.
It's amazing they haven't done any more. When you consider the population growth.
Yes, yeah, you're right.
I mean, just Fishers has gone from when well, I know in 1963 there were 300 people in Fishers. Okay, today there's 100,000. So that's just one little town that's kind of grown a bit.
Yeah.
So so now so what date? Tell us the date and the time of the event again.
So it'll be July 27th. It's a Saturday at 11 a.m. and it will be at the Indianapolis Sailing Club.
Is there good parking
Yeah,
available there?
yeah. there is parking, and then we'll be in the clubhouse. So as you come in through the gates, you'll park in the gravel. There's like a gravel lot. You see all the sailboats out there. You can just park, and then just there is a short hill that you'll need to walk up to the clubhouse, and that clubhouse is like you can definitely tell that that clubhouse is original to that property, uh,
Yeah.
and it was built back in the 50s when I guess they started the sailing club.
Now, where exactly is it?
So the address, hold on, I have to get you the exact address.
Is it right by the
So
log
the
cabin?
so the address is 11325 Fall Creek Road, and so pretty much if you're coming down Brook School Road, as soon as it tees into right at that traffic circle,
Yeah.
you're just going to go around that traffic circle and you're going to take the second exit, and that will take you straight to the sailing club.
Okay.
So Brook School is a straight shot, and you're going to run right into that traffic circle.
Okay, very good.
Yep.
So, well, thank you so much for coming and sharing this with us. I think the 27th should be fun. I think that's going to be an interesting thing to get a chance to tour some Geist history, and I am looking forward to having you back on to talk about Wicked Fishers because I've read that book and it's pretty fun. And so,
Absolutely.
it's and then maybe we can talk a little bit about the vigilantes coming up here before long too. So,
Yeah, I'm really excited about that book. That was probably I think I enjoyed that writing that book more than I did Wicked Fishers. It was just the topic, and it was I learned so much about vigilantism. Um,
well, and you were a cop too, so that kind of goes back
yes,
into the
yeah. So I tied it into, and it's interesting because when I wrote that book, everybody has a different idea about vigilantism. Like if you tell someone what's your take on vigilantism, they may have a negative connotation, or it could have a positive.
Right.
And I demonstrated that there are some good vigilante groups and there's bad vigilante groups, and it's just a very interesting book. And so I was really happy to write that book.
Well, thanks so much for sharing with us tonight. I'm looking forward to the 27th. Hope we have a big crowd there for you and get this thing going. So, and
And
we
we have the
will
link. Well, we have the
definitely.
link on our Facebook page. I will, and I'm going to be doing some more promoting. I'm going to try to send it out to different groups. But it's a group. It's a sign up genius. So all you got to do is just let me know how many people are coming, and so very simple to sign up, and it's free. And just anxious to have everybody come out.
Man, that's great. Robert, thanks for sharing with us tonight.
All right, thank you.
All right, man. Enjoy your evening.
You too. Take care.
Bye bye.